What is up, flag football fans, players, coaches? Welcome to the Biokats Weekly Flag Football Podcast. Here's your week 3 recap of flag football action in both 5A and 4A in the beautiful state of Colorado. Weather's cooling down, but the flag football is heating up. I'm your host, Coach Pitz. Special thanks to our producer who does so much to promote girls sports, Jerry Howard with Biokats. This is how much I love flag football. The Green Bay Packers are playing right now, but I would rather be here with you people talking about the high level of play we are seeing across the state in flag football. Today, we'll recap a great week of action, including a 5A Final Four rematch and a 4A state championship rematch from the past week. We're going to take a look at the updated Max Preps rankings. We'll look ahead to the week ahead, and we're going to shout out the state's highest rated passers and a lot of the other statistical leaders for you. So first, let's congratulate your Denver Broncos flag football coach of the week, Guy Ryan, head coach at Pomona. He needed every bit of positive energy in a thrilling game with Green Mountain on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's talk week 3. I am trying to keep this podcast short, but I've just got a lot of performances. There's a lot of awesome kids doing great stuff on the gridiron, so we're going to talk about it. You're going to notice in some games I talk more about top performers, and some I don't. That will usually correlate, of course, to whether stats were uploaded by Sunday morning into Max Preps. Monday was a holiday, so let's jump right into Tuesday's action, and we start with a biggie. Chaparral 33, Thunder Ridge 18. Zoe Fink goes 31 for 40, 294 yards, rushes for 6 more to get to an even 300 all-purpose yards, 5 touchdowns, including 2 to her twin sister, Paige. Mountain Vista squeaks by Ponderosa 55-0. Ariana Akey throws 3 touchdowns and 1 incompletion before sophomore Peyton Marr took over for 2 more scoring drives. This one was pretty much over before it started. A far more competitive game was going on at Legacy Stadium between Legend and Grandview. Legend escapes by a foot. Yes, 1 point, 14-13, but Grandview's best chance in the fourth quarter comes up 1 foot shy on 4th down. For the Wolves, Brooks, Sullivan, and transfer Cadence Thomas combined to complete 22 of 28 passes for 260 yards. They're both tough as nails on the defensive end as well. This is a very well-coached team with 2 accurate passers. Lucy Thompson stands out for the Titans with 171 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. On the first one, Maddie Smollen's pass travels 51 yards through the air. She has got a cannon. TJ gets in the win column behind Sarah Muhammad's 2 touchdowns. They beat Lincoln 20-6. One was thrown to Izzy Duran. Izzy also throws for 80 yards herself in their 2-quarterback system. Denver North climb in the rankings. They beat Monarch 18-0. Riley Bogan, 12 tackles for Denver North. Coronado 38-6 over Bruce Randolph. LC Walker has an efficient day for the Cougars with 102 passer rating and a couple touchdowns thrown. So, Wednesday's action. Vista Peak Prep beats Denver East 38-20. Legend 40-21 over Rock Canyon. What Lucy Thompson did on Wednesday just ain't even right. 10 receptions, 151 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an extra point. Maddie Smollen had a 144 quarterback rating in this one and 319 total yards. Haley Reynolds of Rock Canyon runs their system extremely well. She goes 25 for 33 for almost 200 yards. She is a great quarterback for Rock Canyon. Aurora Central 13-0 over Gateway. Sure gains 101 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns for Central. Northfield Rangeview, on paper, I was thinking this might be close. It appeared it should be a close one, but Allie Garcia said, nope, no chance. She slings 5 touchdowns and runs for 2 more, racking up 355 all-purpose yards for the Nighthawks. Vista Ridge 25-0 over Colorado Springs Christian. For Vista, Bella Blaisdell hauls in 5 catches for 74 yards, and Andrea Martinez records 5 sacks. Mountain Range and Legacy. Legacy gets the win 31-6. Valor Christian and Chatfield 43-14 was the final on this one against a shorthanded Chatfield team. The Prinzos were almost perfect in this one. The Southpaw She's not padding stats against Little Sisters of the Poor. This is even though Chatfield was shorthanded, they still are a loaded team. Faith throws for 6 touchdowns, completing 83% of her passes, 2 touchdowns to sister Savannah. And even if Chatfield was a little bit short, the Prinzos are on a mission right now. Heritage 6-0 over Pondo. Maddie Walcott finds Alina Shinneberry in the end zone for Heritage. Mullen in a battle for the Catholic supremacy. It's Mullen over Regis 14-0. Elizabeth 31-15 over Palmer. 4 touchdowns thrown by Lacey Antonora for Elizabeth. Doherty and Dakota Ridge. Great defense for Doherty to beat a very well-coached Dakota Ridge team 12-7. Mountain View and Horizon. Jessica Hopkins is a stud for Mountain View. She does a little bit of everything. She and Michaela Macias are able to find the end zones for the Lions to get that win. Littleton 38-6 over Lakewood. Caroline Bain has a 100-yard receiving day, plus she grabs an interception for Lakewood, but Littleton's able to grab 4 interceptions. One goes 78 yards the other way to kind of flip that game. That was for Ava Martin on that long interception return. Arvada West and Columbine. A West able to turn the Rebels over 3 times. Sophomore Grace Shilley leads the Wildcats with 8 tackles and an interception. We'll talk more about A West in a bit. Mountain Vista and Thunder Ridge. Ariana Akey triple digits through the air, triple digits on the ground. Addison Devlin and Kaylee Besh both in the end zone twice for the Golden Eagles as they pull away in the second half after a very good competitive first half. Douglas County 31-0 over Eagle Crest. Solid run game for the Huskies. And 2 picks by Maria Dykolenko are enough to seal that one for Douglas County. Let's talk about Thursday's action. We have Elizabeth climbing the ranks. Cardinals scored twice in every quarter against Aurora West College Prep Academy. Olivia Nelson, big catch after big catch to rack up 111 yards and a score. That is a great athlete as just a sophomore. Olivia Nelson with Elizabeth. Chaparral and Arapahoe played a tough game, 19-6 Chap. Arapahoe is able to slow Chap down, but Zoe Fink still an impressive 21 for 27, 230 yards and 3 touchdowns thrown. Coach's daughter, Chloe Petrillo, leads the Wolverines with 11 tackles in that one. Valor Christian, Denver South. Valor wins it 27-21. Last week I talked about this test for Denver South, and they didn't win it, but they showed they are for real. This was a shootout. Iris Duran, 311 all-purpose yards. Faith Prinzo, 343 all-purpose yards. Asha Daniels leads Denver South with 179 yards receiving and leads their defense with 9 tackles. Watch out for Duran to Daniels this season. Reese Beeser leads Valor with 10 tackles. Grace Marino does it all for Valor. She records 4 sacks, 79 yards receiving, and a touchdown. And I'll talk about her more with their big A West matchup that they had just the other day. Mountain Range and Overland. Overland gets the win 19-3. Mullen hosted Rangeview. They get the win 33-12. Mullen's starting to get rolling. Once they get stats in there, I'm going to highlight some of their studs. But I know they've got a really good returning quarterback. North Glen smoked Mountain Range. They drop a 50-piece on Mountain Range, 54-6. Dual threat. Caitlin Fujinami passes for 5 touchdowns, runs for another 380 yards total. The Norsemen have 2 receivers with over 100 yards in the same game, Evelyn James and Vanessa Rodriguez. Ralston Valley, 38-0 over Chatfield. Another work of art for Kaylin Corcus, 138 passer rating, and 5 touchdowns for Kaylin. Ashlyn Callahan becoming her favorite receiver on the receiving end of 2 of those touchdowns. She racks up 124 yards on 8 catches, plus an explosive 65-yard touchdown run. Chatfield was shorthanded all week, even missing Sadie Goodwin for this one. Look for them to be back in the mix next week with their rivalry game with Columbine. Pooter 20, Eagle Ridge Academy 7, Brooke Pravlik throws for 2 touchdowns and runs for 1 more for Pooter. Sophomore Isabella Hotman snags 15 tackles. Grandview 27-12 over Rock Canyon. Close game all the way. Brooks Sullivan, the difference maker for Grandview, throwing for 3 touchdowns. And she's definitely one of the top safeties around. She grabs 2 more interceptions on defense. Columbine 18-12 over Arapahoe. Another good one. Senior Ella Ryben now doing most of the quarterbacking for the Rebels. And she's played great. 3 touchdowns, 219 yards. Her top targets, Emma Hertz with 129 yards receiving, and Jordan Washington, 170 all-purpose yards. She's throwing, passing, and catching for the Rebels. Dakota Ridge 31-0. It ends up being over Lakewood. No stats for D Ridge, but for Lakewood, Sarah Slaughter, another 250 all-purpose yard day, but D Ridge was able to pick her off 3 times, being the difference in that one to pull away. If you haven't seen Dakota Ridge, they use a nice mix of end arounds and halfback passes to get behind the defense. Northfield 30-0 over Denver East. It was a senior to sophomore for a hat trick. Allie Garcia to Caroline Cummings for 3 touchdowns. Cummings 142 yards receiving for Northfield. And the 5A rematch from last year's Final Four, Arvada West 21-13 over Valor. This was an awesome game. This was super exciting. Crowds were pumped. The coaches were excited. The Emerson Drake, sophomore for A West, she is quickly becoming a dangerously good quarterback. 31 for 51, and a ton of those incompletions were high-level passes that just weren't quite hauled in. She's dropping some dimes. Lindley McReynolds with over 100 yards receiving and a 6-point catch. Aubrey Cespedes and Santana Pena both with scores. Hadley Puglisi with a key interception to seal it for the Wildcats. The usual stars were very bright for Valor. You had Grace Marino now emerging as a 2-way staple for them. She had a huge week. She was barely in their lineup a couple weeks ago. Now the Eagles are relying on her to put pressure on the quarterback, and she's a very reliable pass catcher. She helped Valor jump out to an early lead with a 39-yard catch and run off a quick slant. Faith Prinzo, almost 300 all-purpose yards again, and she grabs an interception. Sophie Abar, a dozen tackles for Valor plus a score. Ellie Johnson, 110 yards receiving for her, but just not quite enough as A West is able to hang on for a top 5 win. We also had Rock Canyon taking on Regis. Rock Canyon gets the 34-20 win. Denver South 42-6 over Vista Peak Prep, and in an absolute thriller with 2 fired up crowds, Pomona wins a 1-score matchup over Green Mountain, 25-20. Pomona now with an inside edge on the league championship, but still a ton of football, of course, yet to play. This was a good old-fashioned quarterback duel. Plumley for the Rams, Cordova for the Panthers. Rams' final possession lands just short, and Pomona's able to kill the clock. Scarlett Thompson leads the Rams with 12 tackles. Plumley to Van Gilder connect for 97 yards. Only 1 day to rest for Pomona, as the Classical Academy is coming up to the same stadium at NAC on Monday night at 7 p.m. All right, in the 4A game of the week, a state title rematch. TCA beats Mountain View 39-32 in overtime. Credit the Mountain Lions big time for hanging in so close, as they replaced almost their entire roster from last year. Stats are still being added, but I know Jessica Hopkins grabs a pick on TCA's last drive in regulation. I'm just waiting on the TCA coach to get me the final numbers. I don't have it just yet, but I'll highlight those kids as we get more information. TCA is only their 2nd game. They've had 3 weeks off because their matchup with Legend was stormed out, and they just have a backloaded schedule. So they'll be into the rankings with Max Preps once they play 5 games. We'll go over those 4A and 5A rankings. Actually, right now, why don't I just bring those up? So if I can get them pulled up here for you. There are your 4A rankings. In 4A. Not really enough data or enough games for these to become accurate. You've got Pomona in the lead at the 1 spot after their big win over Green Mountain. Denver North on the rise. Elizabeth, Mountain View will rise on these rankings. And TCA, of course, will probably spend most of the season right around number 1 in 4A. And for 5A, Mountain Vista and Shap These rankings published Sunday morning, so that officially makes tomorrow night's 7:30 p.m. matchup at Highlands Ranch Stadium 1 versus 2 in the state. I'll go over some other big games coming up, but you've got Northfield climbing, Valor, Arvada West just had an epic game. Denver South, Ralston Valley, Legend, Thunder Ridge, and Legacy cracking the top 10 on Max Preps' list. Chassa will publish their RPI rankings probably this week. And of course, the seeding is based on 50% max preps, 50% RPI. Let's look at the highest rated passers in the state through the young season. Zoe Fink, what she's doing, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 75% completion percentage. That's going to equate to a 131 passer rating for Zoe Fink, only a sophomore. Maddie Smolin having a year, sitting at 124, completing over 70% of her passes. She is over 1,000 yards. Faith Prinzo, 1,700 yards and a 122 passer rating. Iris Duran is crushing it. Ariana Akey, 1,600 yards through the air, and we're going to talk about the leading rushers as well, and that's kind of what separates her. She's sitting at 117 through the air on her passer rating, but I believe around 700 yards with her feet already. Haley Reynolds, as I said, very efficient, very accurate quarterback, 115 on the passer rating. Sadie Goodwin over 100. And Alexandria Eck Cordero from Denver West sitting at 100. Top scorers, Lucy Thompson getting in the end zone. Like I said, crazy week with her, getting 6 touchdowns in Legends 2 games. She's only played in 4 games this year, and she's sitting at 11 scores already. Akey, 66 points. She scores a ton of her points on extra points. Marissa Van Gilder is going to be a staple, of course, for Green Mountain. She's, with her both her height and her ability to just go up and high point the ball. She's a great target in the end zone. Braylon Looney, always very active around the end zone for Mountain Vista. Kaylee Besh, Addison Devlin, Vista's spreading the ball out. Asha Daniels, or I'll have to ask their coach. It might be Asia Daniels, but she's crushing it. I've been mentioning her each week, so I'm going to make sure I get her name correct next week. Lindley McReynolds, 38 points, 4 scores for Arvada West. Let's look at who's got the most interceptions. Caroline Cummings, I mentioned the 3 touchdowns, but she's also got 14 interceptions on the season. Leah Gentry, Denver North with 11. Jocelyn Iris, Arvada West with 8. And then with 6 picks, we've got Caitlin Fujinami, Caroline Bain, Lauren Coolbro, and Emma Gould from Elizabeth. Leading receivers, Ashlyn Callahan becoming a favorite target for Ralston Valley, knocking on 600 yards and 10 touchdowns. Braylon Looney, of course. Savannah Prinzo, sister-to-sister combination there. Caroline Cummings, I mentioned. Marissa Van Gilder, of course. Ellie Johnson, a very, very dependable target. Great hands for Valor. Lindley McReynolds, Lucy Thompson, Ella Buning, Caroline Bain, Santana Pena, and Kaylee Besh. Leading rushers, Akey, 500 yards already on the ground, in addition to all of the ways that she carves teams up with her arm. She's just a handful right there. And Elena Shinberry, almost 400 yards on the ground. Savannah Plumley can do it with her feet. Caitlin Fujinami from North Glen. Faith Prinzo hasn't been in the end zone yet, but 7 yards every time she tucks it and runs. Emma Lamar, Denver North. Sailor Slaughter from Lakewood. And Maria Gutierrez Benitez from Aurora West, that college prep academy there. And Maddie Smolin can do it with her feet. She's had some huge runs. And Destiny Martinez. All right, some big games to watch this week, starting tomorrow. We got huge ones tomorrow. If you are checking this podcast out on Sunday or on Monday night, you've got Columbine and Dakota Ridge. Chaparral at Mountain Vista, 1 versus 2. Is the winner of this game the favorite to win it all in 5A? And you've got TCA and Pomona as the winner of this game, the favorite to win it all in 4A. Tuesday, Vista Peak Prep in Northfield. Arapahoe and Thunder Ridge is going to be a good one on Tuesday. Wednesday is maybe the biggest day yet in this young season. Legend hosts Mountain Vista. Valor heads to Ralston Valley. Rangeview and Cherokee Trail. Columbine and Chatfield. Big-time rivalry game there. Chaparral will do battle with Cherry Creek. Doherty will give it a try against the Classical Academy. Biggest game Thursday is Ralston Valley and Northfield. On Saturday, watch for Arapahoe and Douglas County. Arvada West takes on Chatfield, and Ralston Valley and Columbine. And again, pretty much every game in Jeffco 5A is one to watch because that league is stacked. All right, so initial Max Preps rankings, it says on the slide will be out, but they are out now as of Sunday. CHSAA RPI will publish very soon. There's your formula. Coaches continue to participate in the podcast. I would love to shout out your kids, any standout performances that I might have missed. Obviously, a lot of work goes into all the shout outs that we do try to do on the podcast. I pull stats from Max Prep Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. to prepare. So the sooner you can get your information into Max Preps, the better. If you didn't receive that Google form, just email me, darrenpitzner@gmail.com. Follow all the other content that Jerry puts out at HoopsTracker and the Biokats. Follow me at Coach_Pitz on Twitter. If you missed the 4A and 5A season previews, please go back and check them out. Watch week 1 and week 2 recaps. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on the Biokats Weekly Flag Football Podcast. This is Coach Pitz. Thanks for listening.